Today I'm going to show you how I make these delicious shredded chicken nachos, which fit perfectly into my macros for weight loss. Be sure to like the video and leave a comment to help support my channel. I will also include the recipe in the comment, but watch the video because I give you plenty of tips on how to make a high protein diet work for you for a simple weight loss plan. So I am going to show you how to make a really high protein chicken meal that is super easy. It's really great for meal prep if you are looking for something easy to heat up for lunches during the week. This zesty Crockpot BBQ chicken I make usually once or twice a week, and the reason for that is I like barbecue nachos, which I'm going to make with this recipe, but my son Joey, who is 7, loves chicken. And he will eat chicken for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Oftentimes he does. And I just recently made this recipe again after not making it for a while, and he put it on his top 3 chicken list of all time that he loves, and he is a chicken connoisseur, so you know that it's good. Actually, I don't mean to brag, but I'm pretty sure it moved up to number 2 on the list because Panda Express orange chicken was right at the top for years. That's all he wanted to eat every single week. Recently had a bit of the stomach flu after having some orange chicken, so now it is completely off the list. So this is Joey's number 2 favorite chicken. Hopefully you love it just as much. Definitely something you can give a try, and let's see how easy it is to make. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is you want to grab your crock pot and you want to turn it on low, start getting it heated up, which I have already turned it on low. And next I am going to use some spray. This is the high heat avocado oil spray from Sprouts. Pick whichever spray you like. Avocado is usually a good choice, but I'm going to spray the crock pot. And the reason is because I don't want the chicken to stick. You want easy meal cleanup so that way you cook at home. And I do find if you are trying to lose weight with a high protein diet, like I teach on my channel, you want to cook as many meals as possible at home, because when you go out to eat at restaurants, you don't know what they're putting in there. They're adding sugar to the sauces, they're adding extra fats to the sauces, and all of these calories just add up, and most restaurant meals are gonna be at least 1,000 calories or more. Maybe you don't feel like you're eating that. You probably feel a little bit more full than you do after a meal out at home. So it's just best to control your ingredients, cook at home as much as possible. Of course, you still want to enjoy yourself, so you don't always have to cook at home, but at least during the week, I do my best to cook at home because we do eat out a little bit more on the weekends. Okay, so back to the chicken. We got everything sprayed, it's ready to go. Next, I'm going to combine the sauce. So when I am measuring sauce, I like to use my handy dandy cooking scale. And the reason is, there's 2 reasons. Is one, you don't have to use a bunch of measuring cups because that gets messy, just extra dishes to wash. And again, you want to make this as seamless as possible, so I'm using the scale. Another reason is it's much more accurate. So maybe with this recipe it might not matter so much. The other recipes, like if you're measuring with cups and you like do a heaping cup, it can make a big difference with calories, and those calories can really add up. So I just am in the habit of using my cooking scale. So I am just going to put it down where you can see it. I am going to use this bowl and just basically putting the bowl on there, you just zero it out, no big deal. And then you want to add 8 ounces of barbecue sauce. And so I am using Sprouts organic roasted garlic barbecue sauce because it's delicious. If you're going for more of a low carb chicken, you can use the sugar-free barbecue sauces. I personally don't prefer them just because I feel like the monk fruit or whatever they use just overpowers all of the barbecue taste. Like that's all I can taste is the monk fruit. So I've just never really enjoyed cooking with low carb barbecue sauce. And I am no longer I'm no longer keto low carb. I do try to control carbs at times just to help me stay in a calorie deficit. But I'm not worried about a little bit extra carbs from the barbecue sauce that tastes good. So this is what I'm using. Feel free to use whatever kind of barbecue sauce you want. And then you just want to pour about 8 ounces into a bowl. And now the next ingredient for the zesty barbecue crockpot chicken is going to be some Italian dressing. Now I do have a caveat about the Italian dressing. You know, a lot of health experts talk about the oils used, like this has some soybean oil. Not great for your health, but sometimes you're in a hurry and you don't have a choice, so you're gonna use this. If I had time, I'm on my way to the gym, as you can see. But if I had more time, I would probably make an Italian dressing from scratch. It's super easy with olive oil, and you're cooking this with low heat, so it should be okay. Because I'm in a hurry, I'm just gonna use this pre-made. So do what you have time for, you know? You're improving your health, but you can't be perfect all the time. So if you have to be a little imperfect some of the time, not that big of a deal. I am going to add about 4 ounces of the Italian dressing. Now, even though the barbecue sauce is garlic, I love garlic. I love the taste of garlic in anything, so I'm also going to add some minced garlic. I'm going to add about 3 teaspoons. If you don't love garlic as much as me, you can add less or just skip it all together. But we are going to scoop that into the sauce, about 3 teaspoons, which is close to a tablespoon, but I pulled out the teaspoons. So we got the minced garlic. Next, we are going to add some coconut aminos to jazz it up. If you have soy sauce, you could add that too. I'm going to measure. You can weigh it on the scale too if you know how much it weighs. I don't feel like looking it up, so I'm just gonna do 2 tablespoons of coconut aminos into the sauce because a little bit of a boost of flavor makes it zesty. That with the Italian dressing. And now you need to whisk it. My husband used the whisk for some protein pancakes this morning, so I'm just gonna use my other whisk it all together. Okay, now the next step, your crock pot is a little bit warmed up. You got the avocado oil so nothing sticks. And now you want to add the chicken. I'm doing about 3 pounds of chicken. We're having barbecue chicken nachos for night, which is how I'm gonna finish this video off, show you how I put that together. So I did about 3 pounds because we'll probably go through 2 pounds for dinner, and then my son will eat the leftovers later in the week, probably tomorrow. Basically just putting the chicken breast, layering it in the crock pot in a single layer on the bottom. If it doesn't all fit in a single layer, you could stack it like I am doing. This is the next step to spice the chicken. So just use whatever spices you like. Of course, garlic, my favorite. This is gonna be extra garlicky. And you can measure it out in teaspoons. I don't, I just kind of shake it, know what I like. So measure it to your taste. So put in some onion powder and finally some salt. Getting some spices on there. You could flip it around and spice the other side. I added plenty to the top, so I think it's good. Also, black pepper is a great spice to add on any chicken. I personally am sometimes sensitive to it. It'll lead to headaches, so I don't add it a ton in my recipes. I know there's some in the barbecue sauce, so I am getting some. But for now, I'm just gonna keep the black pepper low, just for me. And so the final step, you have your chicken in the crock pot, you have it all spiced, and then you just wanna pour the mixed up zesty barbecue sauce on top and just try to cover as much of the chicken as possible. If you miss any spots that aren't covered, you could just use a fork or some tongs to flip the chicken. So my chicken is covered pretty well, so now I am going to just pop on the top and I am going to let it cook for like 5.5 to 6 hours. Most recipes say cook it on low 6 to 8 hours, and I find when I let it go to 8 hours, it kind of burns the chicken and it makes it too chewy, so that's not what I like. So I like to keep it closer to 5.5 to 6 hours. As I was experimenting, I did learn that if you cook chicken breast in a crock pot for about 4 to 4.5 hours, it'll actually cook like chicken breast. So if you just want cut up chicken breast for meal prep and you want to do it the lazy way, you could throw it in a crock pot, check it, the temperature, internal temperature, make sure it's at like 165 at the 4.5 hour mark, and you could just do that. Do you want shredded chicken? So I'm gonna let it go a little bit longer, at least 5.5 to 6 hours. I am back. It has been about 5.5 hours since I started, and just in time because it looks like the sauce was starting to get a little bit dark, which means the chicken might burn. So 5.5 hours was the right time for my crock pot. Could be different for your crock pot. Test it out, just make sure you're checking so it doesn't burn. Let's see if I can show you what it looks like there without spilling it. So now we have to do the shredding part. You can shred it right in the crock pot as long as you're careful. I'm sure you don't want to be scratching the sides of your crock pot. But since I'm also talking, I'm going to take it out and put it in a separate bowl to shred it there. And it is coming up very easily, so it will be easy to shred. Shred it. All you want to do is just in the bowl like that. You just want to take your 2 forks and just pull it apart. It comes apart pretty easily. Another method, if this is too tedious, although it goes very quickly, but if you want to try a different way, you can get a hand blender, a hand mixer, and you can try starting out on low speed and shred it like that too. Depending on how fine you want it, that might make it a little bit easier to get it more finely shredded. But I am just going to use 2 forks. I feel like that Muppet chef where he's just like throwing all this stuff all around. Okay, and there we have it. That is 3 pounds of shredded chicken that you can use for meal prep. You can put it in salads, you can make wraps out of it, eat it by itself with some vegetables, whatever you would like. That we need to add it back into the crock pot because that is where all of the sauces, so you want to make sure that it gets mixed in very well. So just kind of do it gently so it doesn't all splash back up at you. Okay, so I got all of the chicken back in the crock pot. I am going to use something other than a metal fork to stir it, so I just found a wooden spatula, stirring all of the sauce in there so it is barbecue chicken. And here is the final product, the barbecue chicken. It's not quite dinner time for me yet, so I am going to wait a little bit before I come back and make the final product, the barbecue chicken nachos. It is closer to dinner time, so I'm finishing up my barbecue chicken nachos recipe. The first thing I do is I take my little lined tray that I add to the toaster oven and just throw it on the scale, zero it out so that way I can measure out how many chips I'm eating to add it to my macros. You can use whatever kind of chips you want. I like the late July organic sea salt tortilla chips, but of course, choose whatever brand you love. And since my dinner is usually my biggest meal of the day, I'm at about 1,000 calories right now, and my goal is to eat around 2,000 to 2,100. That is my weight loss macros. It helps fuel my workouts that I do, but also keeps me in a deficit in order to lose fat each week. So I want to get up there, so I'm going to add about 1.5 ounces of chips to the tray. And I am going to lay them as flat as possible to make the next step easy. I am going to be melting cheese on the chips. I'm gonna use about 1.5 ounces. I like the raw cheddar just because I do better with it. I don't have any digestive issues, so do 1.5 ounces. But again, if you have less macros to work with than I do, you can do less chips, less cheese, take from wherever you would like. So there's 1.5 ounces of cheese on my chips. I'm going to melt it in my toaster oven just until the cheese is melted. Cheese is melted and I slid the nachos onto a plate. The next step is super easy. You want to add your shredded chicken. I already measured mine out at 5 ounces. And I'm just putting that on top, spreading it out. 5 ounces of chicken is going to give you a lot of protein, which is helpful for weight loss. And then just add your favorite vegetables. Vegetables are going to give you some extra nutrients and help you feel more full, so the more the better. I don't necessarily weigh mine out, I just take a good guess. They're pretty low in calories, so if you go over a little bit, not that big of a deal. So I add on lots of shredded green lettuce. The greener the better, the more nutrients you get. Also, I like onions. We already have some diced onions that I store in these green containers just so everyone can add onions to everything in their meals easily. Also love some tomatoes. What are nachos without tomatoes? And the final thing I am going to weigh just so I know that I'm staying within my macros, and that is the sour cream. And the reason I weigh that is it's easy to go over on things that have fat like this. So it's just better to weigh it out. And I'm gonna do 1 ounce on top, and I can spread it out with my fork later. And here is the final product. Shredded barbecue chicken nachos. I am ready to eat. Here's the final product, looking delicious, and here are the macros. Stay tuned to my channel and I'll give you an easy tutorial on how to calculate recipes in Chronometer.